Hey, Care2, it's Heather coming to you once again from Washington, D.C. We are on day 3 of the Republican National Convention being held in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Last night was the sort of opening, the real opening day of the convention, even though Monday was a technical day because of Hurricane Gustav, as we mentioned. And there were sort of 3 major speakers there of note, I think. You saw President Bush appeared via video, and it was clearly pre-taped. It was sort of this bizarre, like Truman Show, giant video screen behind the podium. So he gave a fairly short speech. It was under 10 minutes long, and it really was very just sort of talking about how McCain was ready to lead, referring to McCain's support for the surge, the additional troops that Bush ordered over to Iraq in early 2007. And so that was sort of Bush's function, and it really was, on some levels, was very perfunctory. Of course, Bush very unpopular. His disapproval rating is well over 60% at this point. And so they sort of did that and got him out of the way effectively. Last night's convention theme for the Republicans was service, and so their themes, you might recall, the Democratic themes were more around issues, economic security, national security, because the public trusts the Democrats more than the Republicans on pretty much every issue across the board, except for national security. It's almost an even Steven. But so the Republicans are doing sort of these broader themes and values. So you had Senator Joe Lieberman, whose main role as a former Democrat, although he kept referring to himself as a Democrat, his main role was to say that McCain served in a country before party. And you see that theme hitting over and over, and you really see that as a theme that's going to emerge during the fall, that McCain transcends party, that he's a reformer who gets stuff done, and so that he's the right choice at a time when people are really unhappy with Washington and think Washington is broken, which might sound familiar to you because it's what Barack Obama has been talking about for the last 18 months during his run. And then you had former Senator Fred Thompson, who, of course, ran for president this year as a Republican, did not get the nomination, and he gave the biography speech. He really gave an extraordinarily, I thought, moving and thorough account of McCain's time, particularly his military service, both prior to and during his time as a POW, in excruciating detail, quite frankly. And so some of that was really tough to listen to, I think very deliberately so. But he also launched sort of broader attacks on the Democrats. He's got a very folksy way about him, so I think he did that sort of very effectively, and it was sort of the most emotionally charged speech of the evening that we saw. What's going on outside? Because there has been a ton. We talked yesterday about the protests, and where you had 10,000 people protesting on Monday, over 100 arrests, a lot of what was considered excessive force. There were preemptive arrests, as we mentioned. Even on Sunday, journalists were arrested. Things have sort of calmed down a little bit, but there's still a huge and immense police presence. We actually saw this we tracked down this phenomenal sort of photo essay in the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. We're going to provide a link to that so y'all can look at it. It's really quite striking. The journalists have all been released that we are familiar with. However, many of them actually have been charged with crimes, in some cases felonies, which is a little crazy. A lot of you had things to say in terms of our coverage of that yesterday. I would encourage people to go back and read that great blog post from our blogger, Catherine. But you had another protest yesterday of about 2,000 people, which was mostly peaceful. You had about 10 arrests, but you still had use of pepper spray and things like that. So, for people blocking streets and things along those lines. So now thinking about protests that were maybe coming a little bit from the left, protests from the right. Ron Paul, who's a representative from Texas, ran for the Republican presidential nomination this year. He held what he called a rally for the Republic yesterday. About 12,000 people showed up for this. And so Paul was obviously the headline speaker. Another notable was Jesse Ventura, who's a former governor of Minnesota, ran as a Reform Party person. Paul has really been on the libertarian wing of the party and has been anti-war. And really garnered a lot more support than people anticipated, was able to raise millions of dollars, in some cases far more than some of the front runners in the campaign. And he's really building a movement. I thought New York Times had actually a very good interview of him online. I would encourage you to check out. We can actually provide a link to that as well. But he's refusing to endorse McCain so far, and he's been unclear about whether he's even going to attend the convention, which as a sitting Republican representative is a little bit of an embarrassment to the McCain campaign. So that's what's going on sort of with the Ron Paul folks. The last thing to sort of look at is what's happening tonight. Governor Palin will, of course, be the headliner, but this is sort of the night of Republican stars, if you will. You're going to have Governor Mitt Romney of Massachusetts, former Governor Mitt Romney of Massachusetts. You're going to have former Governor Mike Huckabee of Arkansas. You're going to have Rudy Giuliani, of course, former mayor of New York. So these are all the guys who ran for president this year unsuccessfully, and they're really going to be, I think, building a case for why John McCain ought to be elected. And I think you'll see a lot of attacks on the Democrats tonight, whereas last night it was a little more held back. The other interesting thing in leading up to the Palin speech is that you're going to have prominent women. Carly Fiorina, former CEO of Hewlett-Packard, will be speaking, as will Meg Whitman, who is a former CEO and president of eBay. And so these are women, obviously, who are strong women, who are powerful women, and sort of helping to buttress the Republican Party's argument to women, and they think to Hillary Clinton supporters who may have supported her and are still maybe upset about the outcome in the primary. This is not a theory I personally subscribe to, really, but this is something that they're trying to do. And then, of course, Governor Palin, this is the night of her life, and she's going to really be introducing herself to the American public. It'll be interesting to see if she in any way plays the traditional role of attack dog that vice presidential nominees often do. Joe Biden actually did that fairly effectively last week. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Governor Palin. Now, one other thing we want to mention with Governor Palin, we talked a little bit about the vetting controversies yesterday. That has continued today, and the McCain campaign has pushed back and sort of accusing the media of unfairly going after her and really going after her harder than they would be going after Obama. Personally, I think that's silly. Nobody knows her, and the country wants to get to know her, and she clearly wasn't vetted by the campaign itself, since they've been sending their people out to Alaska since Thursday. But that sort of has been their response to it. One note we do want to make in a correction from yesterday, we had mentioned she was a member of the Alaska Independence Party. That was widely reported. It's not actually true. She was never a member of that party, which advocates for Alaska to secede from the Union. However, her husband, Todd Palin, was in fact a registered member from 1995 to 2002. So wanted to set the record straight on that. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow, and keep the comments coming. We've loved them. They've been fantastic, and we will talk to you Thursday for the final day of the Republican convention.